This episode of Vintage Stormfront Freaks has been previously recorded.
I am very honored to do this, first of all. I think many of you know Jen. If you watch the Weather Channel, she's the co-host of AMHQ from 5 to 9. Jen, I didn't realize it was a 4-hour show now. Is that right?
It's a 3-hour show, but I'm on for 4 hours. You know how that goes. So
because
I'm on
they love
5
you.
to 6.
They love you. They love you. They love you. All right, Monday through Friday, and she earned her BS or bachelor's degree in meteorology from Penn State, another Penn Stater, and is from Philadelphia. And Jen, I imagine you're a Phillies fan and an Eagles fan.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So this was big for you. Congratulations. All right. She began her career at the Weather Channel as an intern. And that was a year before she graduated. And I remember meeting Jen. And what I remember the most was her smile. I just remember that beautiful smile she had. And I thought, wow, she's going to go far. Anyway, so she came to the Weather Channel full time in 1998 after she graduated. And in the early years, I remember she worked, I believe, as like a liaison with the National Weather Service.
Yeah.
For a while.
Good memory, Kim.
Yes, with Ray Ban. And also at the same time, she was in the apprentice program like I was. And she did great. And a lot of you may remember her in the overnight hours, kind of like we all did in the apprentice program. And then eventually they got smart, hired her full time on the on-camera side. And as a matter of fact, Jen worked with me and Nick in First Outlook for a couple years. She was the travel expert. I also worked on Your Weather Today. And then eventually she moved on to bigger things. But what I remember about Jen too is what a hard worker she was and what a great inspiration to a lot of people. Always kind, always pleasant, never a bad thing about anybody. And, I saw this firsthand working with Jen. I knew that she was going to be on to bigger and better things. And she eventually worked her way to anchoring the #1 show on the Weather Channel. And that's where she is now. Besides all this, Jen also has taught Meteorology 101 to a lot of the people at the Weather Channel that needed to know about the weather before they wrote, a lot of their stories about weather, the producers, the directors. So a lot of people at the Weather Channel who weren't meteorologists, she would teach along with Stu Ostro this class that would help them kind of get an idea of what weather was all about. But also has developed and led weather camps around the country and continues to speak to students about a passion of hers, which is science, of course. And of course, Jen shares with me a love and respect of dew points. another reason that I love Jen. And on a personal note, Jen is married to an awesome man, Neil, who is also a meteorologist at the Weather Channel on the IBM side. They have 2 beautiful daughters. Jen is an avid runner, always doing marathons, even with her daughters. Of course, she loves Italian food. And she loves family tradition. That's what I know about Jen, especially during the holidays. Jen, we are so happy and honored to have you, especially this month honoring women in science. And, I was trying to think of a great question to lead into you. And I thought, what, the one thing I don't think I know about Jen is how she got into weather. I mean, what started you on this path? Everybody's got a story.
Everyone has a story, and most meteorologists have like a big storm. Kim, I know your story is the Xenia tornado, and that wasn't my story. But by the way, just thank you for that. Welcome. I mean,
you're welcome.
And we've worked together for so long, and I feel like we do know each other well. But I'm impressed by how much that you know about me.
I'm a big fan, Jen.
I'm a big fan of yours as well. I was always into the weather. From a young age, I grew up actually in Collegeville, which is a suburb of Philly, and we had everything. We had big snowstorms, the blizzards in the 80s that were over my head. And as a kid, that wasn't that big, but it was enough to make me think just in awe of being outside and in the weather. But there were a couple of notable events. Hurricane Gloria. And I was in the 4th grade, and we had off school, and it was just raining. And I really didn't know much more than, that it was raining. And we're watching it come down, and we weren't allowed to go out and play. And I'm just peeking out of the garage. It was lifted just a little bit. And I remember thinking, what makes hurricane rain so special that we don't have to go to school? Because it was just a rainy day, right? And so I had no idea about the flooding and everything else that was happening. So that was one event. We had big hail at one time in a summertime. I think I was in the 6th or 7th grade. And, I remember just sitting at the window, watching it come down, thinking, how does that happen up there? I mean, how did it even get up there in the first place, right? Meanwhile, my parents are scrambling to get the cars in. That was another instance. Just a number of different weather events. And I watched the Weather Channel. I used to watch Jim Cantore and Mark Mancuso every morning before I went to school, the Italian Stallion Power Hour in the morning.
I remember that.
Yeah. I planned my day by, I knew that the International Business Forecast came on at 46 minutes past the hour. And I can still remember that clock.
Oh my gosh.
Today. And so all of this just added to me being interested in weather always, but I never really thought it was like a possible career for me until one of my high school math teachers had a bulletin board for careers for people who are interested in math. Yeah. And he was my calculus teacher, and meteorologist was one of them. And it was a crossword puzzle, and it was up on the big bulletin board. And I remember it was like down name. I can picture it to this day. So I was like, oh, I could be a meteorologist. Yeah. And then just went from there.
Awesome. It always seems like it's some kind of a weather event there that really gets people like, wow, how does that happen?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome, Jen. All right, you guys, anything else you want to ask her before we move on?
Do you know you've made it, Jen, because your introduction was way longer than Cantore's.
Yeah.
Yes. It was, and it was a lot.
I
way
will
sweeter.
use that with him the next time I'm trying to do the tropical update instead of him. So
yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Jen, did you have anybody, did you have maybe a mentor, somebody who helped you through your career, or somebody you kind of looked up to?
Yeah, I have to credit a lot of my high school teachers. I mean, none of them meteorologists, but and really my friends and family too. Everyone really supported my interest in weather. And there's not a lot of people who are meteorologists, right? I mean, did you guys know any meteorologists growing up?
No.
So you don't really see that as a career option, right? You see teachers, you see doctors, and you see a lot of other things. But that doesn't, I think, strike most kids as something you can do when you become an adult. And I just really think, teachers that, one was a pilot. He was my homeroom teacher, and he knew about my interest in weather, and also actually interested in flying too. Dina, we've shared that before.
Yes.
And he had his pilot's license. He gave me some of his textbooks to borrow. And then I realized how much it was about weather when it came to learning to become a pilot. And that just strengthened my interest in weather even more. So it was definitely experiences like that.
Yeah. I mean, I started in aviation and realized weather was so intertwined with it. And I could actually get a job.
Yeah.
I didn't have to fly freight and mail and all night long for it, but it is intertwined.
On your wall back there, Dina. I love your decor.
Oh yeah, my little propellers back there.
So Jen, tell us a little bit about your path then through the Weather Channel, because it sounds like for the most part you've been there.
Yeah.
Pretty much your whole career.
Yeah. Which is rare.
Which is rare, right? So I guess tell us a little bit about how that path worked and why you stuck around when maybe there could have been other opportunities.
Yeah. And, even just getting to the Weather Channel as an intern, again, it was a situation where I really didn't think anybody got to work at the Weather Channel. It was a select few, like Jim Cantore and Mark Mancuso, who I knew from watching, Janetta Jones was on at the time. It didn't strike me as something that I could do. But then I had a college professor, was Lee Grenzy, and he suggested I apply for the position. I did. I got it. And then I came there, and I was like, wow. I mean, it was so impressive to be at the Weather Channel. And yet at the same time, everyone there, I've been expected to walk into a movie studio, right? All glam, and it just wasn't like that. And it's very much a weather geek hangout, just like this all the time.
So tell me then, I'm going to go through a little list here, because you've been there for a couple years. Who's the brainiest person that you've worked with? The one that's their numbers, they're all about the science of weather. Who would you say that would be?
Greg Postel. That guy is on another level. He is.
Posty?
Posty. He writes these discussions for us internally about what's happening. And I got to go get my textbooks out and look up half the vocabulary in there. It's way
Oh
out
my.
there.
Yeah,
So
he's
okay, next one is
probably
who's
Forbes too.
Yeah, Forbes too. Yes. Yeah.
okay.
And he was my
Who's
professor.
the funniest person you've worked with that will get you in stitches early in the morning or even when you were there before?
Oh gosh, these are hard
That's a
questions.
good one.
Everybody, we have such a great time at work. I would say Reynolds. Reynolds can crack me up. Yeah, Reynolds will. But Stephanie can too.
Good guy.
So
Okay.
we have a good time in the morning.
Okay. Next one is who is the Jekyll and Hyde? Who's the one that there's like two personalities. You don't know which personality you might get. But there's
I
maybe
know
it's
that
time
one.
of the day.
Sword right there.
Yeah, it
Maybe
is.
it's time of the day. You never just know, but it's kind of that too. Because I always get that they say there's the fun Phil and the business Phil.
Mhm.
Okay.
Don't forget
So
the
who's-
drunk Phil.
That's right.
That's the fun Phil.
We like
that
drunk
falls
Phil.
under- Yeah.
Can I plead the fifth on this one? I mean,
Yeah,
I gotta go to
you
work
should.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Yeah.
So that's a loaded question, man.
You
Yeah.
might be able to
Two
ask
more.
me that. You might be able
Two
to
more.
ask me that.
Two more.
Yeah.
Who's the best morning person? Who's the one that doesn't need to get started in the morning?
Right now, believe it or not, well, I mean, Kim and Nick, we were all great in the mornings, I have to say. Everyone I've
Yeah.
worked with is amazing in the morning. We get there and you have to get right to it. We don't get there that early before the show, so you really have to bring up like everything right away. And anyone who's worked mornings knows that. And so I think every morning crew that I've been with has been just
Okay.
fantastic. But Cantore is one that you wouldn't think is like, you would think he likes to stay up late, and he does. But he gets up in the morning and he's on the minute he walks in the door.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last one, who's the biggest party animal?
Biggest party animal.
Carfagno.
Let's see,
Who's
little
the one
things
that
you
will always
didn't
get the party
know.
started?
I mean, is it Kim?
It might be.
It might be.
Tina and Kim.
Carl Parker, you guys don't know. He goes to all these Rush concerts. I mean, travels with
Oh,
them.
I've got a
across
Rush
the
t-shirt
country.
on. Rush.
Ah,
Yeah,
way.
there you go.
Who is this?
Carl Parker. He's one of
Carl.
our storm specialists.
Oh my
All right.
gosh.
Yeah, he's.
I still can't believe Carl Parker had long hair once.
Yeah.
He said he had long hair once. I can't. He's
I
like
haven't
the
seen a
clean
picture, though.
cut,
Yeah,
to think
I
of
know.
him as partying
the
with
way-
long hair.
and he talks so I don't know. You would never think that he was a partier.
No.
Right.
Looks can be deceiving. I had a fro. Believe it or not.
Oh no! I want pictures.
True-
I want
true
pictures.
story.
Wow. I don't know if I believe that.
So Jen, I know you like dew points, and I was looking here. Is this correct? You've been labeled the dew point diva.
Yes.
Is that correct?
So you know who gave me that nickname? Jeff Morrow. Do you guys remember
Yeah,
Jeff?
Jeff.
Yeah.
Jefferoo.
Jefferoo. So we were co-anchors for about a year or two, and he was just like, "Stop it with the dew points." And so after a while, that's what he called me. And I'm truly not a diva, although I guess maybe some people don't believe me. But
You are
it's,
not a diva.
No, she's not.
I just think they're really useful and very underappreciated. Don't you guys agree?
I
The dew
agree,
points are
Jen.
underappreciated?
100%. I
I agree.
agree. You
Yeah.
could tell so much by a dew point.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a kid.
If I
Awesome.
had
What kind of
one
reason-
piece of weather every day, that's what I would want. And
Yeah.
if I could only get one thing, I could deal with that.
Yeah. That's all you need, really.
Yeah.
It really is. I agree. Wow.
So where's
Agreed.
dew point depression in this whole thing then?
Oh.
Oh god.
Well, I mean,
It's when she
Depressed.
can't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a dew point depression.
Depressed.
She gets depressed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right,
we-
Jen, tell me a little bit about. So obviously you've in your career had to follow a lot of different storms. I guess tell me what's the hardest storm that you've had to follow closely, and why would you say that was the one that really hit home?
Well, obviously Katrina, and I think that's most people's answer at the Weather Channel because it was, just such a severe event. And for me, I was just pretty young. I mean, I was in my 20s, upper 20s, and hadn't had a lot of experience on TV just yet, and just trying to figure out the right way to present the urgency, gather the data. And this was really before there was a ton of information out there on the internet. I mean, right now you can get everything, right?
Yeah.
But just trying to find what was closed, what was what was happening, not just from a weather standpoint, but from a news standpoint, all of that information was not as quick to come in as it is today. So there was that challenge. And just, sort of grasping the magnitude of the human disaster that was happening and dealing with that at the same time as trying to communicate it on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook.
Yeah.
Pre-everything with, people weren't Snapchatting and Instagramming.
Right. Do you think that's your biggest challenge still today, Jen, that it's that balance of being calm, but at the same time, the urgency that people need to, adhere to?
Yes. And not, and being urgent appropriately. Sometimes I just think my personality is when I feel scared for a weather situation, I'm not loud. I'm not, I talk fast, and that doesn't necessarily get the word out. So it's just making sure you communicate appropriately. And that's, really hard to do when you've got your feelings involved along with, the weather that you're trying to forecast.
Are you nervous now?
Am I talking fast?
Not for me.
Oh gosh.
Oh man, it's you.
So Jen, you mentioned that you sometimes have to fight with Cantore over during the tropical update. Do you guys get to decide that, or is that something that like management will tell you, or do you guys kind of get freedom to decide that?
He wins every time. He always
wins
wins
everything. Although Jen could take him. I bet Jen could take him.
I think so too.
We share. I mean, he does actually get the tropical update all the time, but everything else we try to, every other day kind of thing, and be as fair as possible because we all want to talk about the active weather.
Yeah.
Right.
So how does that work? How do you like, hey, there's 6 categories. I'll take that one. I'll take that one. And you get the rest, or how does that work?
Well, the producer of the show, putting together the rundown basically assigns it. And so it's just, it's like, oh, so-and-so did this segment yesterday, we'll switch today kind of deal. It's truly as fair as could possibly be.
Cantore's paying people off early. Is that the deal?
Probably.
Extra case.
I get there first. I should be bringing coffee and donuts every day.
Yeah. Don't say that, Jen. You should have said that now.
Jim's listening.
He's gonna come in tomorrow and go, "Where's my donut?" Carfagno.
You're gonna listen to us anyway. It's all right.
Oh, he might. You don't know, especially since Jen's on. He might be watching.
Yeah, well, he's always on Twitter, so I'm sure he saw it come through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jen, when you were in school, did you have a lot of other like females in the meteorology program? Because I'm trying to think back, and there were a few women in atmospheric science with me, but it was definitely probably a quarter to like.
Sorry, we have a little
men.
Oh, hello,
Hey. We're celebrating women and girls in science.
Well, I've got 2 science fair participants right here, so I'm proud of them for that.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. And which, by the way, we need to talk about that later because I was overall underwhelmed with how many kids did the science fair. But that's another topic. To answer the question that Dina posed, I would say there was 45 students in my graduating class, and there was less than 10 women. Right?
Really? Yeah.
So, but we all, the class as a whole really worked together well. But I would say especially the women sort of, supported each other pretty well to get through the hard curriculum. It's hard.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to see, even like with my kids are in elementary school and they have a whole STEM program now.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see, that there's more attempt at least to get not only boys but girls too in actual science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I think maybe there was 3 or 4 in my class, women, and the rest were men.
So, I don't think it's a college problem. I think the problem is much younger.
They just didn't want to. Yeah, they just maybe just didn't want it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question is why they choose to get meteorology before that, not at that point.
Yeah. So Jen, do you like going out in the field?
I do, and Kim, that's pretty more recent for me because when we worked together, I was always in studio. And one thing I really had to work on to get out in the field was just to make my whole presence bigger so that the weather didn't swallow me up. And so that's something I have been working on for years, and I feel like it's getting better. Obviously they're sending me out, so I guess it is.
Yes.
And I think there's no better way to truly understand and communicate the weather that you're forecasting than to experience it.
Right.
So I feel like it's made everything about my presentation better just by being out in the weather.
So do you prepare like on the plane? When do you do your preparation before you get up early probably and look up stats, things like that? So what's your protocol? What do you do to get ready
when I go out?
Yeah.
Because I don't usually know where I'm going until the last minute. So it's on the plane. I mean, while I'm packing, I'm Googling things just to find out local tidbits about the area and just know, specific logistics about, how the storm is going to affect that local area. And, often we're going out a day or two before the event happens. And so that's helpful. So I can kind of ramp up a little bit.
That's good.
But, I'm sitting at my desk in my hotel room with my, glass of wine that I get from room service at the bar downstairs. On those little pieces of paper, taking lots of notes.
Yeah, I bet.
Before you go on the air, is that?
It relaxes you, man. It loosens it up,
Yeah.
It loosens you up.
No judging.
She doesn't talk as fast, okay? All right.
Slows it down. It's raining.
I imagine how tough is it to coordinate like with the girls? Like, does Neil take over when you're gone? What happens?
It's a family effort because my sister lives nearby and she really helps out tremendously when I'm out of town. Neil, we sort of have it arranged right now where he does all the mornings and I do all the afternoons and evenings, and that works out really well. But then when I go out of town, everything sort of gets turned upside down. So I've had nannies and my sister, and my kids are amazingly amenable to anything. So they're very flexible.
Oh, that's great. I think it's great for kids, really.
Especially, and I have boys and you have girls, but I think it's good to have your children see you working hard. Yeah. Knowing that women can work hard and get ahead too.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite situations or stories about this was Hurricane Matthew, and it was happening over my daughter's 10th birthday, and we had a big, double digits, and we had a big skating party planned, and they asked me to go out, and I really wanted to go. I mean, this was Hurricane Matthew. At the time it was a Cat 5, but I really didn't want to miss her birthday, and I said I'll go, but can I come back on Thursday? The party was on Friday. And they said yes, but I knew that there was no intention of bringing it back.
Exactly.
Sorry, Jen, we can't get you a flight.
And so I remember that Thursday just having a long text conversation back and forth with Kelly. And I knew at the same time she was actually texting with her teacher because I had all her texts coming to my phone so I could see what was happening. And it was very mature, and her teacher helped her just sort of work through her feelings. And Kelly texted me back and said, Mom, I know you've got to help people and make sure that they know what's coming. So please stay there.
Aww.
We'll celebrate my birthday another time. And I was in tears, right? That's
she must have got a good present.
Hey, Jen, is that the daughter behind you with the butcher knife? Is that the one right now?
She had to look.
Well, that would probably be the other one, but
That's true, Jen.
All right. Well, hey, Jen, do us a favor. How can our listeners find and follow you on social media?
All right. So that's easy. On Twitter, it's Jen Carfagno. And same thing on Instagram and Snapchat. Oh gosh, I never do Snapchat, so don't worry about that.
I was gonna say, damn, you're a Snapchatter.
Don't do Snapchat.
You guys tried Snapchat? I mean, Snapchat
it's terrible.
It's hard.
I'm a millennial and it's terrible. I hate it. Terrible.
All right, Jim is one of the most recognized faces in weather, known for his live reports from severe weather events. Now, he has covered every major event during the past 25 years. Including Hurricane Katrina and Irene and Superstorm Sandy. He's a native of White River Junction, Vermont. And Jim graduated with a bachelor's degree in meteorology from Lyndon State College in Lyndonville, Vermont, where he returns each year to work with students in the meteorology program. The Weather Channel hired Jim out of college, and he first appeared on air back in July of 1986.
Yep.
Woo!
Wow.
Jim,
That's great here.
that's incredible. That's crazy, Jim. Well, we sure love having you here today.
Yeah.
And maybe some people out there don't know the story of how you got into weather. Why don't you share that story with us?
Gosh, first of all, growing up in New England, if you don't like the weather, you're in big trouble because it's in your face all year round. And, it was interesting because I was always out in it. I was always playing around outside, especially when it stormed. I loved going outside when it was stormy. And anyway, so one day my dad sat down with me in my senior year of high school. He goes, all right, son, What are you going to do for the rest of your life? I said, I don't know, Dad. Be a fireman, electrician. Yeah. So my dad said, why don't you study the weather? You're a freak who knows. You leave the barn light on, wait for the first flakes. You go shovel the sidewalk for your mother so she can get to work in the morning. Students call you to see if they're going to go to school tomorrow morning.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
You got to wake up for the next 50 years of your life every morning. You better love what you do.
Yeah.
It was that simple. It was that
Nice.
simple. That's how the whole thing started.
Well, did you originally think TV, or were you thinking behind the scenes stuff, or what? You didn't know.
I didn't. I actually thought about Air Force, to be honest.
Is that right, Jim? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. I actually was involved in the ROTC program a little bit. We would have to cart from Linden State all the way over to Burlington, where they met every Thursday night
How did Kim? How did you not know that
with a few guys.
Jim had an interest in the Air Force? How did you not know that?
I don't know. You know,
I didn't either.
It's very possible he told me, but I didn't remember. I mean, come on.
Well, Kim, given the fact that you read my intro off my bio instead of just kind of off it, I'm a little, I just want to point that out.
Oh, Jimmy, I know. Isn't that terrible? Well, the boss gave me this sheet, and I was like, okay, I'll read this. So
The boss.
It's all good.
Jim, I got to ask you one thing, because one of my favorite Weather Channel commercials is the one where you go to the beach as leisure time, and then everybody sees you and freaks out and takes off. But I kind of wonder, like, when people see you, even when you're on vacation, do people actually think there's a storm?
They do.
They do.
Wow. I mean, even
That
for
would be really annoying.
I mean, guys, it's kind of crazy, actually. People send me these posts from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Jim's coming to town. It's about to get real. Oh no, is Cantore here? I'm not worried till Cantore shows up.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But yeah, people always wonder when I show up in a town what's going down. Yeah.
Well, based on that, when did the I'm kind of curious, when did that whole the quote unquote celebrity weather guy, when did that kind of, do you know, like, that point that happened, and or when did you notice that it's like, all right, this is getting kind of over the top, I can't be Jim anymore? I mean, did you know there was a point that started happening?
I'll say I'm always going to be Jim, because I mean, I don't take myself very seriously. I mean, I'm just, listen, and Kim knows this too, and Dina knows it. I want to get the forecast right. That means so much to me, to get it right and to get the details out there that people understand. The celebrity thing, I don't know, maybe in the 2000s, we started having hurricanes in the 90s. Then of course, 2004, 2005, we were all over the place in those seasons. So that's when I would say, but again, our mission on the Weather Channel has always been to get it right. And it's wonderful to go to work every morning and realize you're a service that helps people. They really trust me, at 3 o'clock in the morning, you need something to get you out of bed, just a little extra kicker. It's not the Tito's, it's the fact that you're doing a service. You're doing a service.
Yeah, I guess that leads into my next question is, what's your favorite part? What was your favorite part about, your job, and has that changed in the past 10 years, and where do you see yourself going in the future? Gosh,
that's a loaded one. I really miss working with Forbes. Mm-hmm. I mean, great. John Hope was my original mentor. Mm-hmm. And John taught me about compassion. When John had something to say about a storm, you didn't even have to have the volume up. All you had to do was look at him, and you knew what he was feeling about. You could just tell, and you could tell he cared about people. So, John was wonderful. And then he said, frankly, being from Vermont and Linden State, I didn't know anything about the tropics. He looked at me one day and he goes, Cantore, your tropical updates need a lot of work.
He said that?
There you go.
And of course I was crushed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to learn the tropics. I got to learn this stuff. So I bared down and I learned it. Sadly, John passed away in the early 2000s, and I was still working mornings. Then I started shifting to the afternoons and evenings, and having to work besides Forbes, and during a severe weather outbreak, and watching him work the radar and look at stuff and know it's going to tornado or hail or produce a damaging wind gust I was just in awe of this guy. And it got to the point where we were on the air. I was like, you know what? We don't have to have just one market to ourselves. We can handle the whole thing. Anything that pops up, John and I can handle it on the air. And it was wonderful. I mean, people really loved watching us, and I really missed that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Cause he just retired, like semi-retired. So, and then you went to mornings. So, and he was working evenings, right? Isn't that
Right,
how
yeah.
Dr. Forbes?
They put me in the mornings about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. You know, let me tell you something. First of all, Forbes says he's retired.
Yeah.
Right now. You know, at 3:23 in the morning, when one of my first emails is Forbes's Torcons and his severe thunderstorm outlook. I'm like, yeah, you're retired, all right.
Yeah.
Sure you are.
Yeah. It's in his blood. He'll be in it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, in terms of where we go from here, you know what? I mean, gosh, we made it. This is it. I mean, I love doing the weather on the Weather Channel. When I show up, I want to make sure it's for a purpose. I don't want. No one's ever told me that I have to hype the weather when I get to the coast. If it's going to be a dud, it's going to be a dud. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. But if it's going to be a big deal, I want everybody to be prepared and get ready to do what they got to do. So I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. So like,
awesome.
you don't see after, you think you'll be at the Weather Channel for the next 10, 20 years, Jim, or you see yourself doing something different than that?
God, Kim, tell me where TV is going to be in 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well, you need to be with us on this podcast.
There you go.
We'll take you, Jim.
You know, one of the if I were to leave, I really love sports and weather. There's so much sports and weather out there. You know, think about the dependence on weather with NASCAR. You know, baseball games. We still see thousands of people in the stands during lightning. You know, if I could do something like that with sports and weather, that would probably be the avenue if it was the right opportunity.
Gosh, that's two things you love. I could see that.
So Jim, when did, you're kind of, you're known for a lot of things, but I feel like what you're most known for is going to a place and doing like a live, like reporting shot. How did that start out? Like because at first you were, an on-air meteorologist in the station. Who did they come to you and just ask you to come out in the field, or did you volunteer for that? Or because, honestly, that's my kind of dream job, being able to go out in the elements and experience it. So, to someone who wants to possibly pursue that, how did that happen?
So what year were you born, Brady?
1994.
What was it? 90 what?
1994.
Okay. So before you were born.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is a true story, guys.
Wow.
They asked me to go cover the second landfall of Andrew.
Wow.
Really?
It probably took me about 3 seconds because first of all, I had to actually I couldn't believe they asked me to go out in the field because I was so jacked. I wanted to go out for my first time.
Okay. So you
jacked?
and of course, it was a big, of course. And then I remembered what it did to Dennis Smith down in Miami because he went through, when it was a 5. He's the only Weather Channel meteorologist, by the way, to go through a Cat 5. Okay,
Wow.
that's a little trivia for you. So I actually did go and cover it in Louisiana. I went to Baton Rouge. And guys, seriously, the storm stalled. We go to bed. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to say about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not kidding. My air conditioner, this was back when they had the air conditioners in the windows. It blew in my hotel room. And it was sitting in the middle of my floor.
No way.
In the middle of my floor. Seriously.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I go to the window. I'm looking out. It's like the 4th of July out there. Right. I call my producer. I'm like, we got to go live. We got to go live. It's coming in. It's coming in. So I think that was one of the earliest times we've been on the air live. I think we got on about 4:30, 5.
Yeah.
And, we stayed on until about noon, but it was great. It was all happening. We had local police stop by and talk to us and tell us how it was going, the power outages, the issues around Baton Rouge. So, that was my first one.
And just kind of snowballed from there.
And it just kind of snowballed from there. Anybody want to take a guess on which number Cindy was for me? Tropical Storm Cindy, in terms of how many I've covered now? Tropical Storm.
Oh gosh.
You guys don't mind if I leave?
27.
I say
35.
41.
50,
I'm just kidding.
48. I don't know.
40. Anybody in the 90s?
What? Oh, come on.
Brady was
That's not
born in the
fair.
90s.
That's not fair, man. Come on.
Yeah, no, nice. So you got a little catching up to do, kid.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So,
So-
91.
Jim, out of all the storms,
91.
which one's probably the most, I don't want to say memorable, but the one that really like gut wrenched,
Impact.
because I would think maybe Katrina or something. I know you were out
Absolutely
there.
right. Absolutely right. It's the first, I mean, Katrina was awful. We were told we were at 27 feet at the Armed Forces Retirement Home. They didn't evacuate our vets. We spent the trip with them. Next thing I know, the next morning, literally within 15 minutes of being out in the parking lot, coming in, grabbing a bite to eat and heading back out, the water's starting to come in the building.
Wow.
So if I've ever learned anything about storm surge, it's how fast the water can come up. It comes up by the feet per second. Okay. It
That's
can
why
come
it
up.
kills so
Yeah.
many. Mhm.
It's absolutely amazing. So at that point, it wasn't about the TV. It was about getting our heroes upstairs and out of the water, because everything was on the first floor. All the medicine, the mess hall, everybody was down there eating. And once that water started coming in, it was about getting everybody upstairs. And thank God we had about 25 Navy CVs, which is the land-based unit of the Navy, with us,
Yeah.
because they were
thank
in
goodness.
charge of keeping track of the vets and helping them move. But we helped them.
Yeah.
We just, at that point, we lost everything. We lost our satellite truck. It's about getting the vets upstairs now.
Yeah.
You're like
That
a
was
first responder at that point.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So how much, Jim, storm chasing have you done out in the plains? And do you
Well,
have a memorable story there?
I got a chance to go out with Timmer a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
he's a wild dude. I mean, he really is. But he's got a knack for doing it. He really does. He really has a knack for doing it. And I mean, it was the Edmonds tornado, the Oklahoma tornado. It was the day before Moore, if you remember.
Gosh,
Moore.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We had Edmonds come right across the interstate, literally developed right over the top of us. Started as a rope and then became this wedge actually that afternoon. So that was pretty awesome. Since then, we've had some issues where they just don't send us out anymore to go chase.
Right.
And I mean, I miss it.
Yeah.
I do, but I'll be out there again someday. I promise you. It's just not while I'm employed.
Tornadoes aren't going anywhere, Jim. Trust me.
No, exactly. Thank you.
I think, Jim, if you want your way, I think you're the one guy who can get it.
Probably. I think so.
I've learned that lawyers are very powerful
Really?
in the media.
Wow.
So anyway,
I've seen a lot of crazy interactions. I remember that one live shot you had where the guy ran up to you and you kind of, but like, was it that, or was it what's the craziest interaction you've had with somebody out in the field?
I mean, I'm going to say, and actually probably what led to the college, the College of Charleston interaction issue was what happened in Lincoln the year before. This guy came up behind me and just kind of mauled me. He's all over me and I'm just shaking him off doing the live shot. And once he left and I finished my shot, I just absolutely lost it mentally.
Yeah.
I took my mic off. I turned the camera away and I just like screamed and yelled. And I say, that will never, ever happen again.
Yeah.
I have had it with that.
Yeah.
I've had it with that.
Yeah.
So from that point on, I mean, the radar's been on. And so I'm kind of always anticipating what may happen.
But Weather Channel's been like, okay,
live shot at a college. Just saying.
yeah, they're like storm chasing, no, college live shots, no.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah, they just keep whittling down the options.
But you know what, guys? Have you seen the videos though of recent of reporters that have been out in the field and they've been accosted, if you will? Everybody's fighting back now. I mean,
yeah.
there's
You have to.
There's reporters decking other people for doing it.
Yeah.
So good.
Carry a big
I mean, I
stick.
don't come into people's office and maul them while they're doing their work.
Yeah.
Okay? So I don't expect them to do it to me.
It's all about getting on television and
Bam.
having all those views on, and sending it to their friends. That's what it is
Right.
today.
I would think twice about mauling you. You're a big dude. You got some muscles. You know?
Exactly.
It'd be one thing if it was like me or Kim.
It's just that it's not really good when I get angry. It's just
Yeah.
not. It's not
Hulk out. Don't Hulk
Yeah.
out.
You're not the
But I
Italian
do-
There, Jim,
stallion
I
for
get you
nothing.
there.
Because that'd be all over YouTube and Twitter of me or somebody just whacking the hell out of somebody.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and you know
All
what?
right. Well,
Trust me, if it happens again, I mean, I'm not afraid to retaliate, and I don't think any reporter should be.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
you gotta
All
defend
right.
yourself.
We got your back, Jim.
On that whack the hell note, we're going to go ahead.
Thank you for tuning in to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. You can watch our bi-weekly show live on youtube.com/stormfrontfreaks and download the audio version on your favorite podcast player. For links to our Patreon team of exclusive benefits, show notes, past shows, new videos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our interactive chaser radar from our friends at zoomradar.com. If you'd like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.